Hello and welcome to Learning with Lulu. In this video we are going to be trying to summarize quickly chapter 24 in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This is the final chapter of the novel, and a part of it does transition from Victor's narration to Walton's narration, and you could possibly split those up, but I'm just keeping it all condensed because chapter 24 is the last official chapter of the novel. It is extremely long. My video reading the chapter to you is about 44 minutes long, so if you are taking a test on the conclusion of Frankenstein or having to write a book review or be showing that you know the book, it is one that I would suggest at least listening to the chapter, if not following along in your own copy as I read it to you. One great thing about YouTube is that you can watch things excessively sped up, so I'd also consider that if you are able to still comprehend what is happening even with the faster reading of it. So this summary, I'm going to just try and really just give you a summary of it so that you do know the highlights and the main points of the ending of Frankenstein. And before we jump into it, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. I love trying to help people, particularly students, with getting through classic novels. So if this is helpful to you, then it really helps me out to subscribe to the channel. So with that being said, chapter 24, we are back with Victor, and every last member of his family has been destroyed. In most recent chapters, the creature killed Elizabeth, and the grief, the bad news, the broken heart basically killed Victor's father as well. Victor decides to leave his home and try and not be so reminded of everything in Geneva. The memories that Geneva holds now are no longer the memories of a happy childhood home. It's a reminder of everything he's lost. So he determines to never return to Geneva again, to just leave forever. And he has the drive, the passion to take revenge on the creature and to put an end to his creation's havoc on his own life. And throughout his journey following the monster creature, again, however you're thinking of him at this point, along his journey, you very much get the sense that the creature is kind of just like pulling him along. And we can look at this, there are probably a plethora of options, but the two perspectives I want to propose to you is maybe he is just taunting Victor and trying to torture him because his own life has been miserable, and Victor is largely to blame for that. Primarily to blame for that, perhaps. But also, you could maybe look at it with the perspective that the creature does have a part of his conscience still speaking to him, saying like, well, don't let Victor just completely suffer, like help him out a little bit because Victor's kind of incompetent and wouldn't be able to survive on his own. Okay, so maybe not entirely incompetent, he did create life, but as far as having the same stamina to withstand the environments that he's tracking the creature through, Victor is not as strong. So you can see it as either the creature taunting or the creature trying to help out a little bit. If you completely disagree with me on either of those, let me know in the comments down below. So anyway, he guides him with slight clues, with messages, carved into things, and just little hints along the way. He also leaves food for him at times. He'll say, hey, I've left a rabbit for you to eat. If you're following closely enough behind me, it should still be there. And Victor does view all of this as taunts. One of the messages, it does seem like a pretty taunting message, and it's really upsetting Victor. Do keep in mind that this story is, and as this chapter will show you again, this story is being written down by a man named Walton, and then Victor goes back through it. So all of this is from Victor's point of view. And yes, primary sources are really reliable, but they aren't always unbiased. You can't always trust them entirely because they may have a certain way that they are wanting themselves to be perceived. So anyway, Victor is upset by what he views as the creature's taunting, and he continues to pursue the creature up north. As I was reading it, I was getting the sense that like we were going kind of up through Russia, but just going as far north as one can humanly or non-humanly go. And then we get to him meeting Walton, and he tells Walton, who is this man trying to lead this expedition on a boat up north, he tells him this story, and he asks Walton to continue Victor's revenge should Victor die. Which, if you have the perspective of Victor, you know, this creature really is the most vile, evil being, and you can maybe see why he's saying you've got to continue my revenge on this creature. But in another perspective, that's kind of a big ask if we still have the view of the creature as someone who is inclined towards goodness and just trying to escape his immature creator. So we then get the rest of the story told from Walton's point of view, and he continues the narrative. And the story is continued in the form of letters that Walton is writing to his sister, who is back in England. He relates to his sister that he does believe Victor's story, and you can also tell that he's a fan of Victor. He's like, I wish I had known him when he was in like the prime of his life, before all of this misery had weighed him down, because he seems like a really cool, great, smart guy. That's one of the points where he is referred to as an angel, and now he is kind of like the fallen angel who's been brought down by fate. He tells his sister that Victor is on the brink of death, and Victor is just barely hanging on to life. Now, at one point, their boat is stuck in the ice. I'm not sure if when Victor came across them, their boat was stuck in the ice, but their boat is stuck in the ice, and Walton's crewmen are just kind of like, this is pointless. Why are we still here? We should go home. And Victor, he rouses a little bit, and he gives them this really eloquent speech, which, again, I want to point out, he accuses the creature of being eloquent and persuasive, and yet he's able to convince an entire crew of men that, like, no, keep going north, even though you're stuck in the ice. When the ice breaks, don't go back home to sunny England. He gives this very eloquent speech, and you can say either persuades or manipulates the men into calming down and not making Walton promise to return back to England. He makes them see that the quest that they're on is full of nobility and honor, and if they go back, that they're gonna just be cowards. Victor's very moving speech, it does convince them for a couple of days, but they do kind of reconvene and say like, no, this is not what we want to be doing. We'd rather be back home with our families. And so they go to Walton again, and he knows that he can't force an entire boat of men who don't want to be at his side to continue the expedition. So he promises that when the ice breaks, we will go back home. The ice finally does break, and that's the point at which Victor dies. And Victor even says, I'm not going to go back with you. He is suggesting instead that he be left there on a small boat, but ultimately that isn't what's going to happen. He just dies on board Walton's ship. And I guess they don't deal with his body right away, because it's not until several days later that Walton hears a strange noise coming from the room in which Victor's corpse is lying. And so Walton, of course, goes to find out what is causing the noise. And as you may be able to guess, what he discovers is the creature, or as he says, the monster, crying over Victor's body, so crying over his creator's dead form. So even though Victor asked Walton to take revenge and kill the monster, I think he says to plunge a sword into his heart or something like that, there is a hesitation in Walton, and the creature does tell him of all of his sufferings, and he says that he regrets that evil became his master. And he says now that his creator is dead, he himself is ready to die. But rather than Walton delivering that death, the creature leaves the boat and leaves forever. So with that final scene with the creature, we are for the first time, again, there's still multiple levels to who's relating the story, but instead of Victor telling Walton, who's telling us what the creature said, now it's just the creature telling Walton, telling us. And so there may be a little bit more truth of the creature's character in those final lines. Granted, Walton would still be biased. And while I at least was sympathetic to the creature and how his experiences shaped him, there's something to be said that we still weren't getting a completely unbiased version of the story. And so if he was already sympathetic, think how much more sympathetic we may be to his circumstances were he the one telling the story. So there are multiple things to be considered here. If you have any other things that you want to consider with analyzing this final chapter of Frankenstein, just let me know down in the comments down below. If you'd like an additional video actually analyzing the chapter as a whole, or just specific lines or sections from the chapter, let me know if you'd be interested in that. And with that being said, that's the end of Frankenstein. This is the last of the Frankenstein chapter summaries, and I genuinely hope that they have been helpful to you, and I hope to see you back around. Please subscribe to the channel, and that is that. Thanks for watching. Bye.